Level 1. The Candidate. A man in a plain suit meets you at a cafe in Tel Aviv. He never says the word Mossad. He asks about your army service, your languages, your family, your appetite for risk. You think it's a job interview for a consulting firm. It isn't. You're 24 years old. You served in an elite IDF intelligence unit. You speak 3 languages fluently. You didn't apply for this. Mossad found you the way it finds most of its officers, quietly, through a name passed along by someone who already trusts you. The vetting takes 8 months. Psychologists study how you handle contradiction. Polygraphs test you twice, 3 weeks apart, to see if your story shifts. Investigators interview your neighbors, your ex-girlfriend, your old commanding officer, people who never learn what the questions were really for. They want to know if you can lie without blinking and still sleep at night. Most candidates are quietly rejected and never told why. You pass. You sign documents that don't officially exist. For an agency, the government won't confirm you work for. Your family is told you work for the Ministry of Defense. That lie starts today. It never really ends. Level 2. The Trainee. You report to the Midrasha, the academy hidden outside Tel Aviv that trains every Mossad officer. 18 months of instruction designed to erase the person you used to be. You learn surveillance detection, walking the same street for different ways until you can spot a tail without turning your head. You learn to build a legend, a false identity so complete you could survive a background check in any country on Earth, complete with a childhood that never happened, and photographs staged to prove it. You learn Arabic, Farsi, or Russian 8 hours a day until you dream in a language that isn't yours. You learn dead drops, brush passes, how to recruit an asset over months of patient friendship built entirely on calculated lies. Instructors fail you without explanation and never tell you which mistake ended it. A third of your class disappears quietly over the 18 months, reassigned to desks they'll never leave. You finish. You're handed a new name on a laminated card. You practice signing it in a hotel room until it feels more real than your own. Level 3. The Katsa. You're a case officer now, deployed under diplomatic or business cover in a hostile capital, running a life that exists only on paper. Your job is recruiting agents, foreign officials, scientists, insiders, and turning them into sources without them ever fully admitting it, even to themselves. You spend the year cultivating a nuclear engineer over dinners and shared complaints about work, about pensions, about a government neither of you trusts. You never ask him to betray his country. You let him arrive there himself, one small confession at a time. When he finally hands you a folder, your hands don't shake, but your heart does. You run him for 3 years. You memorize his children's birthdays and his wife's allergies. You worry about him the way you'd worry about a brother. One day, he stops answering his phone. You never find out if he was caught, fuzzed, or simply scared enough to disappear. You filed a report and board a plane to the next country. The not knowing becomes a permanent resident in your chest. Level 4. The Combatant. You're pulled into Caesarea, the division that runs the riskiest operations directly inside enemy territory. No embassy cover now, no diplomatic immunity, no safety net if it goes wrong. You cross a border on a forged passport under a name you invented yourself 6 weeks earlier. Your mission is to photograph a weapons facility from 2 kilometers out, using equipment disguised as ordinary luggage. A checkpoint stops your car without warning. Your Arabic is flawless. Your papers are flawless. Your pulse is not. The soldier studies your face for 4 seconds that feel like 4 minutes, then waves you through. You don't breathe normally again until the border is 40 minutes behind you. You learn that fear doesn't disappear with experience. It just gets quieter and better hidden. You learn to live inside it and still function, still smile, still remember which language you're supposed to be thinking in. Level 5. The Kidon Operative. You're selected into Mossad's smallest, most secretive unit, the tip of the spear, the one whose missions echo the old operations historians still write about decades later. Your operations are never acknowledged, before or after. in any government record you'll ever see. You track a bomb maker responsible for dozens of deaths across 3 countries. You study his routine for 4 months, his coffee order, his mistress, his blind spots, the exact second he checks his phone each morning. The operation lasts 90 seconds. You're on a plane out of the country before the local police finish taping off the scene. You never see the news coverage. You're not allowed to feel finished, and there's already a new file waiting on your desk when you land. You start memorizing a stranger's face again before you've even unpacked. Level 6. The station chief. You run an entire country's network now. A dozen Katsas and their agents reporting through you to King Saul Boulevard every week. You lose an asset to a counterintelligence sweep you didn't see coming. 3 of your people go dark overnight. Their phones dead. Their apartments empty. You spend a week not knowing if they're dead, arrested, or simply frightened into silence. Thurballs, shaken but alive. 1 doesn't. You write the report in careful, bloodless language. You call his handler's wife, a woman who thinks her husband works in shipping logistics. You tell her he's been reassigned overseas. You carry that lie home with you and set it on the table next to your own family's version of the truth. Level 7. The division head. You oversee operations across a dozen countries now. From an office in a building your own children couldn't name the address of. You approve the tradecraft. Other people execute in cities you'll never visit again, signing off on risk from behind a desk instead of carrying it yourself. A joint operation with a foreign intelligence service goes wrong. An asset is exposed within hours. You sit in a debrief and explain, calmly, exactly what failed and why, knowing a man's life ended because of a variable nobody flagged in time. You've stopped expecting the guilt to fade with rank. You've only learned to keep working through it while it sits there anyway. Level 8. The deputy director. You brief the Ramsad every morning before the sun is fully up. You sit in rooms with the Prime Minister's closest advisors discussing threats most citizens will never learn existed, let alone how close they came. You authorize operations across 3 continents at once. Some prevent attacks that would have filled hospitals for weeks. Some go wrong in ways that make headlines under someone else's carefully constructed explanation. You've buried 3 officers who worked under you, in quiet funerals with cover stories carved into the gravestones themselves. Their real service is recorded nowhere but a locked file and your own memory, which you are legally forbidden from ever writing down. Level 9. The Ramsad. You're the director now, the most powerful intelligence chief in the region, and almost nobody outside a small circle can picture your face. You report only to the Prime Minister. You decide which operations proceed and which risks are too high. Knowing history will judge decisions the public will never fully see. You sign off on an operation that saves a country from catastrophe. Nobody claims credit publicly. That was always the arrangement. You signed it the day you sat down in that cafe in Tel Aviv, decades ago, across from a man who never said the word Mossad. Level 10. The retired officer. You've been out for 2 years. You live somewhere quiet now, a place with a garden and a name that finally matches your own passport again. Your grandchildren think you were a diplomat stationed abroad for most of their childhood. Some nights, you almost believe it yourself. You still scan restaurants for exits before you sit down. You still notice cars that pass your street twice in 1 hour. Some habits outlive the career that built them by decades. A young officer visits you once, sent quietly to absorb whatever wisdom you're willing to give before it's lost for good. You tell him the country will ask for pieces of himself he can never get back, and it won't ever say thank you out loud. He nods politely. He doesn't believe you yet. Nobody does at his age. Somewhere in a quiet cafe tonight, a man in a plain suit is asking a stranger about her languages, her family, her army service. She thinks it's an interview for a consulting firm. It isn't. The cycle continues.